Hi, I'm Noortje, and this is How Was It?
And in this episode, we're going to talk about sex care. Let's get into that.
Let's go.
All right, we're in bed with Noortje right now. Hello.
Hi.
Let's start saying actually that this episode specifically, we have subtitles. So if you have trouble understanding English or trouble hearing, this time you can also read it. And we know each other. You don't know Lorenzo yet, or
Not yet.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
But how do we know each other?
We're colleagues,
Yes.
and we are activists.
Yeah.
Hard word. For sex workers.
Yeah. So, like we said in the intro, you're a sex care provider. But in Dutch, there's an official name for it. It's called seksverzorger.
Yeah.
But in English, there's not a name for it. Is it because like a Dutch thing, maybe, or?
Yeah, it is. The Netherlands is the only country that has this service.
Oh.
So
What is
there's
it
not
exactly?
Sorry?
What is it exactly?
So a sex care provider is a sex worker that specializes in people with disabilities and chronic illnesses.
Okay.
So it can be like regular sex work, but also a lot of education, a lot of intimacy. It's quite a broad occupation.
So disabilities on a spectrum, everything that goes from mental disabilities to physical disabilities.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Both.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. But first, I would like to just go over some practicalities with you about who you are. Let's start with, what are your pronouns?
She, her.
And so gender is?
Female.
All right. Sexuality?
I'm pansexual.
Okay. Funny thing, we talked about this term last time also. What is your definition of that label?
For me, it is that I have attraction to everybody, that it doesn't depend on a certain looks, but it is about character. And I can be attracted to somebody, for example, because the way of they smile, and not because they look a certain way in shape or gender.
That's a really cute way. It's a cute label, I guess. It's, yeah. What's your relationship type?
Well, that's a difficult one. I don't really give labels to my relationships.
Yeah.
So there's people I see, and other people might call that a relationship, but I don't call it a relationship.
Yeah. Because relationship anarchy, then?
You could say that.
Yeah.
But I also don't like that label.
It's the problem in this podcast. I'm really I'm asking for labels, and every guest is like, I don't really like labels. So, I mean, I do the same, but okay, so how many people are you seeing then?
Well, depending on your definition of it, between 0 and 7.
Nice. 0 and 7.
Yeah.
Meaning that some people might not be agreeing with the definition, and so it might be 0, or it might be 7 if anybody share. What does it mean?
Well, it's like, what is seeing? I have some people I see twice a year, but we're very intimate when we see each other. I know their families, they know mine, but is it a relationship? I don't know. We never talked about it.
Okay. Fair enough.
But I think the 0 is interesting, because that would mean that for some definition you wouldn't have any relationship.
Yeah, by some definition, I don't.
Huh.
Fair enough.
Okay. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about this, so let's not go too deep into
Yeah.
it because I could fill an entire episode on this. Yeah, so I guess the first question is, how did you start with sex work?
Well, I always had a fascination for sex work,
Mm.
but I was a bit anxious to start with it, especially because of all of the stigmas being around it. But then about 8 years ago, I had a boring but stable desk job.
Mm.
And I was like, well, this is my moment to try it. And I started applying to high-class escort agencies, but they denied me.
Mm.
I wasn't what they were looking for in terms of weight. I was
Mm.
too heavy. So I started to look around a bit more, and I found a sex club in my uh, place of residence in Leeuwarden. And I was really, really nervous, but I just walked in one night, but it was amazing. Like the host was really sweet, talked me about everything.
Mm.
And yeah, I had a really good feeling about it. So that same night that I came there for the first time, I signed a contract.
What?
Yeah. And I started working there. I really liked it, but I also was missing some things.
Mm.
And then I heard about the term sex care.
Yeah.
And I have a background in healthcare. So for me, the combination of healthcare and sex work was like ideal. So I made the switch. And then 2 years ago, I started my own company.
Mm. So that's the very quick version. I do have some questions first about how was that first time when you started? Like you walked in and you were like, this is it, I guess. Because you
Yeah.
were immediately right signing a contract. Were you not like scared of like that industry as well? Like isn't it scary to sign a contract? Because I guess a lot of people look at sex work as an unsafe industry. Um, how did you experience that? Were you afraid?
Well, I was before I got there
Hmm.
because I had certain stigmas in my head
Yeah.
and I was also afraid about my safety.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were so good in getting me at ease. I talked to a lot of colleagues.
Hmm.
They showed me around, showed me all the security measures that are in place. And it really, it eased me into it.
Hmm.
I got to talk a bit with the clients who were waiting downstairs,
Hmm.
and they were just like normal people.
Yeah.
I would also find in like a bar. So for me, it was just an experience. Like, oh wait, this isn't weird or scary. It's just normal people just wanting to have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Huh.
So wait, 8 years ago you said
Yeah.
you started this, and then how long did you do this for before switching
To sex care or my own business.
to sex care?
Oh, that would be around 2 years in, so 6 years ago.
Okay, so for 2 years you did, let's call it regular sex work.
Yeah.
And then you figure out that there's like a sweet spot between your previous experience and your present experience, and then you switch industry, and then you open your company, which is I guess in sex care, right?
Yeah. Well, it's sex care, but it's also regular escorts,
Okay.
and it's also education.
Okay. That's a mix.
Yeah.
Why did you switch to like having your own company instead of working with an agency?
Well, for one, I'm not really good working beneath a boss.
Hmm.
I like to follow my own rules, and I often disagreed with my boss about certain ethic issues
Hmm.
within the community.
Can you say something that you disagree with? Like what ethics are important for you?
Well, for one, if I work with people with a disability, I
Mm.
found autonomy really important,
Mm.
that people have the right to make their own choices. And one rule a previous employer had was that people with mental disabilities, such as Parkinson's or autism, weren't allowed to have one-on-one contact during the planning stage, for example.
Mm.
So they weren't allowed to plan an appointment with me. It has to go through their healthcare provider.
Mm.
And for me, it was really weird. My clients were working people. Nothing was really wrong with them,
Yeah.
but they needed to get a healthcare provider for the healthcare provider to be able to contact me and plan my services.
Yeah.
For me, that didn't feel right.
Yeah.
So now I have my own business and I just talk with the people themselves. And sometimes I speak with their healthcare provider, but only when my client asks me to, and not because it's a rule.
One thing that I'm immediately thinking about, because we're talking about healthcare providers, is there like a budget for this within healthcare? Do people get certain benefits to be able to book your experience?
Not really. A couple of years ago, it was part of the PGB, a certain rule we had here. But there was a judge who spoke out against that sex care isn't an essential part of healthcare and therefore it can't be used in that way anymore. But now there are still some municipalities in which you can get some money to hire the services. But there are a lot of rules involved to get it and how you can spend it.
And do you agree with this ruling? What do you think is bollocks?
I think it's hard to say because I think everybody should have their way of intimacy because it's beneficial for everybody. And to say that only people with disability get access to it would be a little bit weird, but also people with disabilities are the people who experience least amount of intimacy in their private situation. So for me, it's like 50-50. I'm not sure what should be the right call.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So right now, who's your like target audience exactly? If you say like, if you have to describe the client, the average client that books your services.
I guess you have 3 different services that you just said.
Yeah.
Like regular, but I guess you're talking about like the sex care.
Yeah, the sex care.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all people that hire me are looking for intimacy. If I look at my client base of previous year, about 90% is people interested in sex care, and 5% the partner of people with a disability, and 5% like normal escorts.
What do you mean with the partner? Like the partner went to see you and then the other partner comes to see you? Or
it's like they have a partner and their partner, because of the illness, can't have intimacy with them anymore. So they're missing these parts. They talk about it with the partner. The partner can't help them anymore in that way to look after their needs. And then sometimes they decide, let's call in Noortje. And so that partner can still have a sexual interest.
yeah, so they're seeing you as a couple.
No,
No,
just
no.
the person.
What? Am I dumb?
Okay, so for example, I have a client who is male and he's married to his wife, and his wife is really, really ill. She's in a coma, so she can't consent to anything. She can't do anything, and he is, like he really wants intimacy, but he can't get it with his wife. So he books me.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the other way around, meaning that if there's somebody that has a partner with an illness, they would talk to you in behalf of their partner, as in like, I'm booking for them. Does it make sense?
That does make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sometimes also happens.
Yeah.
But that's I put under the 90%.
Okay.
Because then the person with the disability is still the one who is my client.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah. And the normal escort? Why do they go to you? Okay, I mean, because you're hot, but
Well, thank you.
yeah, I guess because you already said like high class escort, they denied you because of your weight. Do you see now that people specifically book you because of that?
For some people, it's really benefits
Mm.
because they were looking on high class escort agencies and they couldn't find anyone with their particular body shape that they liked.
Yeah.
And that happens to be plus size, and that's quite hard to find in the high class area.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily consider myself high class, but what I offer is more than just sex.
Yeah.
So dates with me are always at least 2 hours. It's really about intimacy, about connection, a lot of skin on skin time. Sometimes there isn't even sex to start with.
Hmm.
There's just no sex. It's just about company. So it's my body can be a good thing for some people, but it's never just about my body.
Hmm.
It's also about the other things.
Yeah, the intimacy that you offer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, how does it work when somebody books your service for Thursday? Then there's like a minimum amount of hours that they need to book for. Is there like different like packages? Is like they come to yours, you go to theirs, like yeah, meet outside. Like, how does it work? Maybe it changes for every person. Maybe some people can't walk.
Some people can't walk. No. I'm an escort, so I always go to people. That can be in a hotel or it's their own place, or if they live in a group home, that's also fine.
Hmm. That's funny.
It's always a minimum of 2 hours because for me, otherwise, I can't build that connection. So my dates usually are between 2 and 48 hours. So sometimes I also stay overnight.
Wow.
And people have to choose at the start. Do they only want company? Do they also want to kiss and cuddle? Or do they also want to get sexual? So those are the 3 packages in which
Yeah.
they can choose.
And when it comes to 48 hours, you also sleep, obviously. So it's not just hours that you're awake, but you're paid for also the sleeping time. So it's 48 hours you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people do get a discount for the time we sleep.
Can I ask you what's your hourly rate?
Which service?
Which service?
Yeah.
Sex care.
Sex care. Okay. Well, still, sex care doesn't have to be sex. But let's say you also
Full
want
package. We
the
want
full
everything.
package. Yeah. So then it would start at 2 hours for 550 euros. And it is a layered rate. So the longer you meet up, the relatively cheaper it
Yeah.
gets.
The cheaper by the hour it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the longest would you say you spend with somebody? It's 48 hours?
No, that would be 8 days.
8 days?
Yeah, but that's an exception. We went on a holiday together.
That's the dream.
Well, it was quite dreamy. Yeah.
But then you're literally working 24/7, 24/8, basically, then I guess.
Well, almost.
Yeah.
I have general terms and conditions, which kind of makes a contract every time someone books me.
Mm-hmm.
And in that states that I want to have 9 hours of sleep and 2 hours of free time a day when a booking is that long. Otherwise, it's going to...
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's so smart.
You would be too tired and it wouldn't be fun anymore.
No. Yeah.
And obviously like a holiday, so you didn't pay for the holiday, I would assume.
No. But
Nice.
I was very lucky in that I got to choose the destination and the accommodations and the activities. So I had a wonderful time in Italy.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Where?
In Lake Como.
I'm from Lake Como.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I should have asked you for tour
Okay,
advice.
so expensive. Nice.
That's someone with a lot of money then. I would assume, because... we can calculate how much that would be.
You could, but it's not a very rich person.
Hmm.
It's a person who had a decent job,
Hmm.
not like a millionaire or something.
Hmm.
But they were very sensible with their money.
Yeah, so obviously 8 days holiday is you said it's a little bit of a unique situation. You probably had already some sort of relationship with this person.
Yeah.
Not a relationship, but like a, well, you knew the person at least enough to like trust the person. You felt safe. Have you ever felt unsafe? And if so, like how did it go?
Safety is a real concern in my occupation. So I have several things I try to prevent anything bad from happen. The first big thing is the first contact. You can tell a lot about somebody, about if they respect you or not, by the way they message you and how they react during a phone call. So, for example, if somebody clearly hasn't read my website, my rules, it's for me already a red flag. Because if they don't do that, then what else won't they do? If some people push during the phone call, like, oh, you don't do that, but can't you make an exception? Then I'm like, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
When I see somebody, I always let somebody know where I am. People also have to pay an advance, a deposit. So I already have their real name, bank accounts. So if something bad happens, my backup person knows that kind of information and they can call the authorities.
Hmm.
But has it ever happened, or like has it ever happened something, like halfway through the date you realize this isn't exactly what I sign up for? Well, what they sign up for in a way, but like what did you sign up for? And if so, like did you like interrupted it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that every single situation is different. Every single person has a challenge of his own, let alone disability. I'm just saying about like a one-on-one, situation. So I would assume that, there's definitely planning on that side as well.
Yeah. Well, while I plan ahead, like I just told you, something always can go wrong. So there was once I had a client with mild intellectual disability, and he wanted to lose his virginity that night with me. But he had almost no knowledge of sex, and the knowledge he had was by watching porn. And he happens to watch hardcore porno.
Hmm.
I am a big woman, but he was an even bigger guy. He was more than 2 meters tall, and I would guess around 200 kilograms. So he really had a physical advantage over me.
Hmm.
So we started in the bedroom, and he really turned quickly. He was wonderful to talk with and to chat with beforehand, but in the bedroom he changed
Hmm.
because he thought that was what he was supposed to do.
Hmm.
So he started to choke me, and I couldn't breathe.
What?
And well, obviously I was panicking. And
Yeah.
I tried to tell him, but I couldn't speak because I was being choked. So yeah, might sound a bit stupid, but I tried to hit him,
Hmm.
but that didn't make a difference. So in the end, I tried to poke his eye with my thumb, and he stopped immediately, and he was like really confused, like, "Why are you doing that?
Whoa.
That's not nice." Well, then I could. Well, first I got up and composed myself, and then I explained to him, "You can't choke people."
No.
And we had
Unconsensually.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Consensual, go ahead, but not without warning,
No.
without consent. You can't do that. That's something that happens in porn. And in porn, there's a lot you can't see that's already happened before it.
Yeah.
So in porn, you have a consent conversation before filming. That's not real life.
Yeah.
I did manage to go through the appointments, and
Wow, that's strong.
he was really, he was feeling bad.
Hmm.
He didn't know that wasn't okay.
Hmm.
But it was also for him quite hard to wrap his brain around.
Yeah.
Then you come really to an education kind of part of my work, talking about consent, talking about porn isn't real, talking about how should you treat a woman.
Yeah. I'm so in awe of you just continuing. Like, you were fighting for your life there for a moment. Like, those instincts, they come up, you know? Like, if you have to go for someone's eye, then you're
Yeah.
really scared. And that you just continue like that, that's really strong.
Well, if his demeanor was otherwise, I might not have.
Mm-hmm.
But once he realized what the problem was,
Yeah.
he completely changed how he behaved towards me, and he felt really regretful.
Yeah.
And I have taken a moment in between
Yeah. Like some
for
self-care.
myself.
Yeah.
I really did.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and we didn't went straight back into sex.
No.
But because of all these factors, I was able to continue. And in other circumstances, I might not have been able to.
Yeah. If we're talking about safety, you brought a little box that I really want to talk about.
Yeah.
Do you want to show it?
Yes, absolutely. So this is my safe sex box.
Yeah, it is so beautiful. It's so organized.
Thank you very much. I very much tried. Okay, so I have a lot of sizes of condoms. I have from small to big. I have extra thick ones in case somebody is prone to orgasm way too quickly.
Oh my god, there is something for that?
Yeah. I have latex-free condoms. I even have a special one for people who aren't mobile enough to put on a condoms with two hands. So this is a special condom you can put on in one hand.
Because, like, you could also put it on, you know, but then this is nice because they can do it themselves.
Yeah, a bit of autonomy.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
3 different kinds of lube. Because, you can never be prepared enough. Safe sex isn't just using a condom. It's also using the right condom. It's using the right lubes. I have protection for cunnilingus. And I have gloves.
Cunnilingus is...
Oral sex towards women.
What an ugly word. And why I don't know this word, I don't know. But maybe because I just never liked the word and I just wanted to forget about it. Cool. And also gloves, I think this is?
Yeah, gloves. So in case I want to do something anally with a client, or I don't receive anal, but sometimes clients want to finger me, but for example have a wound or have really dry hands in which they bleed from.
Yeah.
Then it's an STD risk.
Yeah.
So they can wear a glove to make it more safe.
That's so good. Nice. I'm gonna need this for all of my private dates. Just, hey, we have a one-night stand, but hold up. Yeah.
From size 45 to 72.
Okay.
All there.
Okay. Well, do you know what your size is?
I actually don't.
Well, there's something for that.
Oh my god.
You have a ruler, especially.
Are we gonna do it here right now?
I wouldn't think so. You need to be hard to use it. Then you can measure what size you have.
That's so good.
Oh, and 47 to 69. Okay.
Till 69? That's so funny.
I can see it by looking at somebody. But if you're not trained, you can use one of these. But you can also just use measuring tape, or there are special apps that can tell you. So a lot of options.
That app just wants to save all of the nudes from people and then use AI to, I don't know, something with it.
Do you think size matter?
Yes and no. It's way more about skills you have than the size. But if
you are the one bringing skills.
Yeah, but the other person also can use skills. and I can teach them new skills, but to have skills makes the sex go better. But if you happen to have a really small or a big penis, things can be a bit more complicated.
Mm.
So it's absolutely not the most important part, but it does matter.
Have you had someone that had a micro penis?
I have, yeah.
How is that?
Really difficult, also because they didn't know they had a micro penis. So I had to explain to them that sex might be a little bit difficult. And they were quite offended, which didn't help with the right vibe for our dates.
Yeah. So I guess that's someone with a mental disability that didn't understand that.
Yeah.
Wow.
What qualifies as a micropenis? Is that under like 2 centimeter or something?
I don't know the exact size,
Yeah.
but
Maybe
it's
anything that's not on the ruler?
it's about
You
pinky
could
size.
you could tell. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that would be hard. Yeah. Well, it can still be hard, but I mean. Oh, damn.
So you ended up not having sex with this person, or something happened?
We did have sex, but it took a bit to get back into the right mindset and to be relaxed.
Yeah, and what is
horny
sex?
again.
Sex is not just penetration. Sex is more than that.
For sure.
I guess,
Yeah.
right? So we've talked a lot about your work. Obviously, that's what we're here for. But personally, what do you like? When you have sex with clients, what do you enjoy yourself?
I like it a lot to see my clients grow. I do a lot of education, and sometimes I have multiple sessions with persons, and we plan the next, and then they call me and say, Noortje, I can't because I got a girlfriend. And then I'm so proud. And I'm so happy for them because they got to use their skills. And that's something that really cheers me up. But also, to be more selfish in my answer, I like it when they focus on my pleasure. Of course.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of teaching skills. A lot of people have trouble with that because not many women are open to give a lot of feedback on the things they like. I provide a lot of feedback, not just what I like, but also what most women would like or most people would like. And then, they got to
use that knowledge.
Yeah, they got to practice with it. And I'm more than happy to be practiced on.
Is there a difference between the way you approach sex for a client and sex with a partner?
Yeah. With clients, I'm very giving. I'm also very in my head all the time because I have to give feedback. I have to teach skills. I have to do a lot of communication.
It's a job.
Yeah. It's a job I enjoy very much, but it can also be quite hard, especially because of the communication. And if people have disabilities, I might have to adapt continuously throughout the date. And that can be quite intensive. But when I'm with my partners and I know them for a longer time, they know what I like. I don't have to tell them continuously. And I can be a bit more selfish.
Yeah, I would ask, like, do you because you give so much with your partners, is it like the other way around? Do you need to be taken care of more often?
Yeah, I noticed the shift in my relationships. I try to be as equal in giving and receiving with my partners, but since I do this job, I've been more shifting towards receiving. So that's something I talk to my partners about to see if they're okay with that or not.
And they are, I guess, because they're still with you.
They are, but I lost one person who wasn't okay with that. So that's what it is.
Yeah.
Does jealousy play a role at all with your clients? Like, is there any client that, after a while that you're seeing eventually develop some sort of like attachment to the point that they feel jealousy?
Well, most of my clients develop some kind of affection for me. And I would say that's completely normal. It is quite rare that somebody gets really jealous. I've only seen this happen twice. And that's real jealousy if then they can't cope with it.
Mm.
But there are more clients who experience it in a very small portion that they would rather not hear about what I'm going to do the rest of the week.
Mm.
And they're like, yeah, I'm fine to know that you're working, but I don't want to be confronted with that.
Yeah.
That this is your job.
But yeah, I can understand. Have you ever like felt attachment to a client?
Not in the romantical way, but I do have some awesome clients. So I like them, but not like romantically.
I think now is the time to ask the question, when was the last time you had sex with your job and how was it?
That was past Friday. So that's now 2 days ago. Yeah. I was with one of my regular clients. And like always was great. We started with just simply having lunch. But then things get spicy.
So you meet at his place then?
Yeah.
This is a regular. So what does regular mean? Like how often do you see him?
Every
Then?
few weeks.
That's quite often.
Yeah, it is. For me, it's nice because you really have something to build on. You can really develop skills, but also just
Yeah.
yeah.
The intimacy is already there.
Yeah, and you know what this person likes. You know how you can make them happy.
So you had lunch, then you had sex.
Yeah, we did. It was very nice.
Yeah. Did he give you pleasure?
He did. He did very much indeed. Give me. Well, how much details are okay?
As many as you're willing to share.
Personally, I don't have limits. I don't know what the platforms have, but we'll find out.
Okay. So we started in bed, and I like to focus a lot on foreplay. So touching each other's bodies, kissing, soft touches and bits with the nails. And I was a bit in a selfish mood. So I asked him to go down on me, which was very pleasantly.
Nice.
And he fingered me, and I had 3 orgasms, which was really pleasant.
Wow, you did your education well.
I know. Yeah, I'm very proud of him.
You also know what you like.
Yeah, so it's more about the directions I give, which leads to many happy things.
Yeah, so people can learn from you and like know what you like and tell people, educate your partners on what you like.
Yeah, that's really important.
Yeah.
People are not psychic. You need to tell them.
So what did you do after? How long was this date?
It was 8 hours.
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it wasn't done after that, I guess, after the sex?
No, we cuddled a lot and we talked a lot. We had a little bit of a drink break. And we decided to go to a garden center. Just so homely together. And after that we went to dinner. That took a couple of hours because it was a fancy dinner.
Like you went out for a dinner in a restaurant?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was really good, but it's also just really gezellig.
Yeah, cozy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no translation to that Dutch word. Yeah. What do you think about that? Is that what you would expect from a date like this?
I mean, I don't know.
Garden center and all.
I never really picture this type of service. But also, I wouldn't picture 8 hours straight up, just sex. 8 hours, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's too much. I'm sorry. Not for me.
That's
No,
too much
you
for
don't-
everybody.
You don't last that long.
8 hours.
8 seconds, I would assume.
That would be much more ideal. 8 seconds rather than 8 hours. If I had to pick for the rest of my life, I would want 8 seconds more than 8 hours.
Oh, you're talking about just penetration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
then
eight,
yes.
I'd say
Yeah.
8 seconds it takes for me to come. Let's say,
Yeah.
but I can compensate with a lot of foreplays and stuff. 8 hours is like I'm never gonna come ever again in my life. 8 hours is a work shift, literally.
Yeah.
So not for me.
Are you able to rate this, or like, is this like one of the best kind of dates, or just a regular date? How did you experience it?
I would say it's one of the best dates,
Hmm.
just because I really like the flow of it. I like that it's casual. There's time for everything. Lots of intimacy, which isn't just sex, but also everything around it.
Hmm.
Great company and great dinner. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Why are we making podcasts?
Good question.
Yeah.
And you got paid.
So if you see us on
I got paid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask how much you got paid? How much is 8 hours?
It's 1,300 euros. And you will think immediately that's a lot of money. And it is a lot of money, but you have to take into account tax. So from the 1,300 euros, about 500 euros remains.
Really?
Yeah.
500 remains.
Yeah, because it's tax, it's expenses.
Oh wow.
Okay. We're gonna continue making podcasts.
We make nothing.
We're making nothing. But anyways. Okay.
At least you don't have to pay taxes.
Right. Are we ready for
Rapid fire.
some very rapid fire questions?
So what's the difference between who wrote this question, bro? What's the difference between genders of clients? So I guess the question was like, if you had to say like percentage wise, how is the target audience divided by gender?
No, it was more about like what's the difference between the genders in their behavior, in what they want.
Is that rapid fire? It's mostly men, I would assume. But are they only men?
Okay, we're not gonna. Yes. Okay, then yes, ask that question. Are most of your clients men? Second question.
Are most of your clients men?
Most of them are, but I also have women and non-binary folks, queer folks. Oh.
Okay. And are there differences, main differences between different gender? What would you say it is?
There really isn't any difference. The only difference I see is that especially women get a lot of stigma from their healthcare providers. Healthcare providers are more willing to help the men and even the queer folks, but not the women.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, it's also really sad.
Yeah.
What is the most amount of money you made in a month?
That would be around 14,000 euros. But again, keep in mind, after taxes, that's not even 5,000 euros.
That's crazy.
Still, good month.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you gonna do this until retirement?
I would like to, but I don't think I will be able to, because it's quite a physical
Demanding.
profession.
Yeah.
And especially because I also work with people with physical disabilities. I have to be the one who is very limber and active. So I'm not sure if I still can do that when I'm very old.
Yeah. What are some fetishes or kinks that you've come across?
Well, let's start with saying all fetishes and kinks are okay.
Yeah.
And I don't judge them. Some that I came across is a foot fetish. People who like to wear diapers. People who like it if you stink. There's a lot of fetishes.
Yeah. I guess the diaper thing, I guess there are also some people that wear it already, maybe? Some of your clients?
You mean like in not a kink way, but in a disability way?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. But then it's not a kink. It's just because they're incontinent.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered doing OnlyFans or starting OnlyFans?
I've considered it, and my conclusion was it's not for me
Why?
because I really dislike being online,
Hmm.
and I also don't like social media.
Do you have abashophilia, which is a fetish for disability?
No, I don't.
Have you did you know about that fetish that it exists?
I did. I didn't know the name.
Yeah.
I know it exists.
Mm-hmm.
My clients obviously try to date as well to find someone themselves on dating sites, and they come across that quite often. And that's not really what they're looking for because
Yeah.
they want to be loved for the way they are, not because they're disabled.
Yeah, they don't want to be seen as an object.
No.
But then do you have a caregiving kink?
Also not. No. I just like a person for who he is.
And you just like to take care of people, not as a kink, but because you find this job important.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. What was the most unusual request you received?
Someone wanted to book me for me to come fly to the UK and to not shower or wash or use deodorants a week beforehand. So I would fly and then be sweaty and dirty in like a week old grime. I had to reject that.
Why?
Mostly because I myself really wouldn't feel sexy when I would stink like that. I wouldn't be comfortable, and I only take on jobs that I really like because I want to feel good. But also I would feel like really guilty to put people around me. Like
the
can you
person next to
imagine?
you in the plane.
Those poor people, I wouldn't do that to them.
But also every client for the week,
Yeah.
right?
Well, then I would have to take the week off.
But that costs more.
Yeah. Well, I didn't ask the person who asked me this because I didn't want to do it anyway. But some people ask for things and I need to take time off. And it's possible, but then they have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when somebody asks you something and maybe it's not exactly something that you have considered doing before, you say no right away, or money and maybe like a considerate amount of money might change your mind or might play a role.
If I'm not comfortable doing anything, it's a hard no. And I really dislike if people ask me, well, what if I pay X amount extra? Will you do it then? Because that's not what I do.
No.
For me, the way I can do this job and I can feel good about this job is that I keep my boundaries and I don't cross them.
That's so good. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, let's end with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
This was so good. I'm so happy with this episode already. This is just so... Everyone is interesting, but for me personally, I found this one really interesting. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's get out of bed.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening and watching. This was How Was It? My name is Silky Way. I was here with Lorenzo, and this was Noortje. Thank you for being here.
Thanks again for having me.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow us on the platform that you're listening to, but also on Instagram at howwasit_podcast. And slide in our DMs if you want to go on a date with Noortje. Bye.
Bye.